Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So today we have another episode of Space Engineers Experiments as we are going to make Hinge hatch doors work. Somehow. Alright, so if you watch my space survival adventure, I tinkered with this hatch door for quite some time and not come up with a solution of how to make this airtight. This current hatch door is actually just held up by rotors to lock it, but once you close it, it's not very airtight. One, because of the thrusters I put here, but even if they were blocks, it's still not airtight because nothing has been merged together. It's only locked by like the subgrid of a rotor. So this has been a big issue that I want to resolve and make hatch doors work, and I think I have some solutions. We are here at my playground, my very deserty, sandy playground, where I make a lot of different experiments in Space Engineers. And here is my setup of all different kinds of forms of hinge hatch doors that might work. And unfortunately I didn't put them in any specific order, so I'm just gonna have to go through them one by one and show you guys how they kind of work. So I kind of made it as easy as possible, the very basic, bare minimal style, which is basically a hatch door on top, and it is going to merge into a block that fits the inner sides of the square or rectangle, but not overlap anything else, because once you merge block in together, you don't want anything sticking out because it's not going to be able to like unmerge itself, basically. Ever since the hinges came out, I've been trying to figure out what's the best way to make a hatch door with it, because, you know, they look cool to use and it looks like a good purpose to make a hatch door. So the basic one is this. I was thinking a regular hinge here attached to the door itself, basic merge block inside and outside, and when you tell the hinge block to reverse or go down, it should merge block into that. But it doesn't, as you're gonna see in a second there. Boom. Because for whatever reasons, a hinge block cannot use merge blocks to merge into a station, a subgrid versus a main station or whatever. Not exactly sure why, but the other option that I try to do is, instead of leaving it like this so it won't merge, I try to detach it. So I have a button here to detach. So now it's off the hinge, but the part's still there, the hinge part's still there, which is still not going to merge. So either options, in this case, the option to do a regular hinge with the door and the hatch itself doesn't work well, doesn't keep it airtight, and you're going to see that's not airtight because once you go inside here, it looks airtight, everything looks shut, but the oxygen vent here or vent is definitely not airtight whatsoever. So I've been testing around to see what makes it work, what makes it not work. So this basic system here definitely doesn't work. But of course, if you see, if I just take off this hinge block here, it will merge together. So that, for some reason, is the issue, which, I don't know, hopefully it gets fixed, maybe not. But I'm going to talk about some alternatives. So another version of that I tried was to back it up just a little bit, put a half block attached to the main block's door. Same concept, I have the O2 system there with air vent, merge block right here in the middle, and we close the system down to the merge block to see if it shuts. But of course it's not going to shut because it's exactly the same system anyways. So as you see here, it's definitely not going to merge for whatever reasons. Yeah, so turning on and off the merge blocks, it doesn't work. I'm pretty sure if I took off the hinge block again on this side, and it's going to merge, as you see here. So I've designed a couple more, and let's start with this one. So I thought about, let's put the hinge block onto a piston. So as you see here, I just put a piston underneath or on the bottom here, connected to the station, and I put the height just enough of the height of the tallest block of the square or rectangle, and then I added the hinge block with this door here. I did extend it out just a little bit with like the same thing we did with the half block to the main door, and for some reason that actually works pretty well. So here I'll reverse the hinge block, and it's going to come down and lock into the merge. And this setup actually merges together, as you see there. And it's airtight, as you see here. So if I go into the system, air vent, it says pressurized. So everything, of course, is super dark in here, but everything is covered. So you basically only need the corners or the sides to be covered with the merge block, and it works well. You can do this differently, where you can have the merge block completely surrounding the sides. So for an example, have all the merge blocks out here, and then connect it from the top side with all merge blocks too. But I didn't want to mess with that kind of design in this small scale test. So I just left it as this, and this as a proof of concept, you can actually just merge it with the sides connected and not actually overlapping them. The main reason for that is because of this. If you were to put a block and merge it, and it connects to, let's just say, this side of the block, it actually sticks so that you can't unmerge it. So that's another issue. But most of you probably already know that. So for an example, if I unmerge this thing, bring it up, and then add any block. So let's just say this block here for an example, right? So if we reverse this, turn the merge block back on, once it merges, that white piece here, it's gonna stick to the thing and make the whole thing stick. So you can never unmerge it again. So if I unmerge the merge block, or turn off the merge block, reverse, now it's like completely stuck. It's not gonna go anywhere. So that's why I did it that way, where it only covers the like sides and everything like that, and not overlap. But if you take this off, hit reverse, it'll go back up. So you can design it with like a welder, grinder system to unlock it that way if you want to, but the simplest hatch design I could think of was something like that. And again, it works very well with the piston for whatever reasons. So you put a piston, a hinge block, and then attach it to your hatch door on top, and the merge blocks and everything, and it seals it tight. No issues. So for whatever reasons that is, this was kind of a good solution to a hatch door. Alright, so I tried to do something different, and that is to attach a hinge block with a small hinge head instead. And here you see is a hinge part 3x3, and that's what I've attached here on this hinge block. Use a small grid blocks and a small landing gear on these catwalks. And you could definitely design this a little bit better, but I just want to see if it works with landing gears. And with this test, we're gonna just bring it down, and it should merge perfectly fine into that merge block without any issues, and it should be airtight, as you see here. Green. Perfect. So that works out pretty well. Hinge blocks attached with a landing gear seems to be a good choice for a hinge hatch door. So the next step, instead of a small landing gear, if you want to use a big one like this one here, it does look a little bit odd, but it works just as well, to be honest. If I put reverse, it's going to go down, same concept, merges right into it, and it's going to create an airtight seal, as you see there, which is great. And then the next thing I've done is make a hinge block connected to a rotor, similar to adding a block, except it is a rotor instead, so it's more of a subgrid kind of system. And this system, oddly, works fine. So with this system going down, it'll merge into it, create an airtight seal, and you have your hatch door. So all these systems kind of work out pretty well. And then I try to do one more thing. Just like the piston, I added a rotor piece down first and then the hinge block. And I put a half block there so it doesn't connect to this block here. And this system, you would think it would work pretty well, but to be honest, it just doesn't work. And it's confusing. So it's very similar to just having a hinge for whatever reasons, and it doesn't create an airtight seal as you see there. So that was an oddity. It works well with the piston, with the hinge sitting on top of a piston, but for some reason a hinge sitting on top of a rotor just didn't seem to work right. So yeah, So that was kind of the experiment here, and that is to see how to make a hinge hatch door work properly and what are the alternatives. So to make a just straight up hinge connected to a door to make a hatch, it doesn't work even if you detach it. The other idea would be to use a piston to bring up the door and drop it or attach it somehow to the hinge block. But I like the alternatives, and that is something I'm gonna probably play around with the space survival adventure, that hatch door in the front of that extremely large ship, and I can finally finish up the time-lapse build of the underground base, because this was preventing me from actually making a hatch door, so I didn't make any new videos from then. So that will give me the opportunity to do so. So I do like the idea of sitting on top of a piston and then into a hinge to make that hatch door, but I think the easiest version would be one of two: the small grid landing gear or the large grid landing gear. And those are my two probably favorites to go with. And if to make it more compact, I would probably use this one here, which is just a rotor in a hinge system. But I think the rotor system is a little more heavier than the landing gears. I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of my assumption to make these hatch doors. So hopefully that's kind of helpful to you guys to learn how to make a hatch door and use the hinges to make those hatch doors. I'm pretty sure you can use a rotor to make the hatch door, but I haven't tested that out ever since that update for block collision, which I think is causing this issue, or this is not an issue, it's actually built the way it's intended. I'm not 100% sure, but it was very interesting to find a solution to make hinges work with hatch doors. Well, at least this type of hatch door. So I've only tried it with this small setup of large grid system. I want to make a huge door, and ideally if this works small version, it's probably going to work as a large version. So we're going to experiment with that later on, and instead of making an experimental video, you'll see that in the next video in the space survival adventure, and eventually the time lapse for the underground base. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed that experiment. Hopefully that was very helpful in making hinge hatch doors work properly with these type of solutions, and that is definitely something I'm going to be playing around with in the next videos. If you guys did enjoy this content, please hit that thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and also leave us some comments. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.